Well, we are highlighting a milestone that is reshaping Atlanta. Dozens of students now armed with the tools to take part in construction projects on the city's west side. As 11Alive's Joe Ripley explains, the graduates of West Side Works' 50th Construction Ready class aren't just seeing change happen in their neighborhoods, they're making it.
Over on Atlanta's west side, you'll find a neighborhood in transition.
Progress, man. They making it better. Back then it was, it was kind of, not so good. We'll just say that. So now that, the development is kind of happening, it look a lot better.
Christian Clark Ward moved to Atlanta as a boy and has seen change with the swing of a crane. Clark Ward now has a daughter with autism, and she's inspired him to help build a better community for those with special needs.
My goal is to help build communities in poverty. That's what I want to go ahead and do.
Kyra Bowers and Clark Ward are part of the newest graduates of the Construction Ready program by West Side Works.
Construction drawing, basic safety, OSHA standards.
Site manager Mary Williams says more than 2,000 students from ages 19 to 65 have all gone through the 20-day intensive program.
We're impacting lives. We're impacting families. We're impacting cities.
Training a local workforce that will have a hand in building their own community.
I don't think you could place a value on building a community back. It's just something that is, you want it to impact the heart so that it continue to do that, and it just kind of overflows, like paying it forward in a sense.
For Christian Clark Ward, it means following his faith and laying a new foundation for the next generation.
Regardless on how life may keep knocking you down, always keep thriving, keep trying.
Well, each student in the Construction Ready program is matched with an employer here in the city. Each of the 30 students in this latest graduating class is from the west side in either the English Avenue or Vine City neighborhoods. As costs for housing, groceries, utilities, and health care keep climbing, a new national report says state and local leaders have the power to do something and step in right now. Here's a look at what families are up against. The Affordability for All roadmap states that the prices of groceries, rent, and utilities have gone up roughly 30% since 2020, driven by corporate consolidation and market power. It also cites federal and private housing data showing that rents have climbed more than 50% since 2020 in 10 states. And yeah, they specifically note Georgia as among those hardest hit. The report also found that hidden add-on fees from banking, travel, ticketing, utilities, and more cost families more than $3,000 every year, if you'll believe that. When costs are rising this fast, the question becomes, what can communities do right now? Liz Pancotti is co-author of this report. She joins us now to break down these solutions. Liz, good to see you on an important topic. Thank you for your time.
Thanks so much for having me this morning.
When you talk to families around the country, what are you hearing most about the day-to-day pressures from these rising costs?
From all families, whether you make $20,000 a year or $100,000 a year, families are really struggling with affording just the basics: groceries, rent, utility bills. Many families don't even have the room in their budgets to do a little bit extra, like take their families to Disney World or a baseball game once a year. It is really, really crippling for families across Georgia and across the United States.
Right, because here in Georgia, it was listed in your report as one of the states hardest hit when it comes to these rent increases. What does that mean for families here in our backyard?
Georgia was actually cited in a lawsuit brought by the Department of Justice in 2023 against RealPage, which is a large company that allows big landlords, operators of huge high-rise apartments across Atlanta and across the United States. But in the Atlanta metro area specifically, it was cited as the top place where RealPage's AI-powered algorithmic rent-setting technology is driving up rents for families. And in Atlanta alone, this can cost families more than $180 a month, more than anywhere else in the United States.
Wow. Okay. So what do we do about this? Do you rely on Washington, or do you need Georgia and Atlanta local officials to kind of step in and move the needle?
I really think it's an all of the above approach, but given so much gridlock here in Washington, where I am based, we and my co-authors at Local Progress and the State Innovation Exchange have really called for local and state leaders to step up in this moment. And in fact, there are some bright spots here right in Atlanta. Rep. Gabriel Sanchez in the Georgia State House from the Atlanta metro area has actually introduced legislation that we recommended to ban this AI-powered rent fixing that drives up rents for families in Georgia. Additionally, in the election last month, there were 2 filled seats on the Georgia Public Utilities Regulator who can bring down utility costs. So across the board, I think that state and local lawmakers have to step up, and we've laid out a number of policies they could pursue to do that, whether it's bringing down the concession prices at local football and baseball stadiums or bigger ticket items like housing and utility bills.
You talk about utility, you brought it up there with the utility board here, but you're actually calling for a rate freeze, right? I mean, what kind of relief would that do to families, and is that feasible this day and age?
What we've called for is kind of a bifurcation where typical families who use a normal amount of electric power to, run their HVAC systems or turn the lights on, those folks should pay a much lower rate for kilowatt hours of electricity relative to big super users like data centers or cryptocurrency miners. And so what we've called for is the State House to create a system that sets a lower rate for families. And for, Governor-elect Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey has called for a rate freeze so that rates couldn't be hiked any further. We think that's a good first step, but we really think that second step of lowering rates for typical families and raising rates on those super users of electricity is the way to make this a more sustainable cost for families.
Liz, 20 seconds here. You lay out a lot of solutions, but what is the one thing we can do right now that would change the most lives the fastest?
I think taking on corporate power across the board, whether it's banning these AI-powered rent-setting technologies or making these big tech companies pay for the electricity they're using, regardless of the policy action, that is really the most important thing here.
And as you alluded to, a lot of it already happening in Georgia. We're going to keep an eye on it, Liz, and we thank you for your time today.